Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh. Our top story for tonight, Western allies ramping up pressure on Israel over Gaza. That's coming up on AWANI International. International pressure is mounting on Israel as its renewed military offensive in Gaza draws growing condemnation. On Tuesday, the UK suspended trade talks with Israel and imposed sanctions on violent settlers in the occupied West Bank, while the EU also announced it will review ties with Israel, with its policy chief calling the situation in Gaza catastrophic and Israel's action as beyond proportionate self-defense. Right, this comes up just a day after the UK, France and Canada warned of concrete actions, including targeted sanctions if Israel doesn't halt its offensive and allow aid in. Now, despite that, Israel vowed to expand operations, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring plans to take full control of Gaza. Since May 5th, Israel has been conducting a new military offensive in Gaza, with hundreds have been killed since then. The United Nations also confirms that no aid has yet been distributed in Gaza, despite aid lorries starting to cross the border after an 11-week blockade by Israel. There are growing cracks in the Western alliance over Israel's ongoing offensive in Gaza. The UK, France and Canada have issued a rare joint warning to Israel, threatening action if the offensive in Gaza continues, while the EU is set to review its trade deal with Israel, a major shift from earlier Western support. What does this mean for the war in Gaza, US leadership and global diplomacy? Joining us now is international social economist Ismail The Guardian. Right, thank you Ismail for joining us. We've now seen joint warning and measures to Israel from some Western countries towards them. Just months ago, these Western allies are strong Israel backers. So what do you make of this dramatic shift?
Well, thanks for having me. One is tempted to say that any step towards peace or any step towards a resolution is a good step. The problem is that there are at least two things that we might want to look at. First is that we need to try and understand the difference between what the politicians say and what the rest of the country and what the military people, what they do. So the politicians probably trying to put themselves on the right side of history, because it seems more and more like people are coming around to the idea that the cruelty and the butchery that's going on in Gaza is really a genocide. Well, some of us have thought about it for a long time. It actually has, in my analysis, it has the markers of a typical Holocaust, and I'm talking about the Holocaust as considered since, for hundreds and hundreds of years, that you destroy a people, you destroy communities, families, their institutions, and it has a religious aspect. So this has all those elements. So we need to look at the way the British in particular, in the old left-right divide, we used to say they talk left, but they walk right. So the British politicians seem to be talking human rights, but walking military aid. So they're not, unless they say, we will stop sending military aid, or we will get Palestinians to go back to their homes, we need to be very careful with reaching any kind of Panglossian conclusions here.
Right. Now, this kind of coordinated response, including calls to review trade deals and oppose settlement expansion, I think signals more than just symbolic frustration, right? Do you think this marks a turning point in how Western democracies approach Israel and the wider conflict?
I don't think it marks a turning point. The thing is, they will continue to stand by Israel. I mean, the most powerful political economy in Europe at the moment is Germany, and the German Chancellor has already said in the last few weeks, they will continue to stand with Israel indefinitely and forever. So the thing is, they're politically continue to be aligned with Israel for various reasons. And the main reason in the German case is, they have this battle with memory. They were responsible for, they admitted in 2021 to the genocide in Namibia, and we know between 1914 and 1945, at least 60 million extremely conservative people were killed because of German aggression and German expansion. So the Germans have this memory thing. They seem to think that they owe the world, they owe Israel an apology and unrelenting support for what the Germans did, but it's all being inflicted on the Palestinians at the moment. So these things aren't that simple, and yes, sure, the threat of trade deal is one, but Israel will continue to have military support and military backing from the United States and its allies in what we call the WENOW. It's a in global political economy. We speak of Western Europe, North America, and Oceania. So that basically North America, Europe, and Australia and New Zealand. And these people will continue to stand by these countries will continue to stand by Israel. But the politicians are coming around to the idea, because of the graphic images, that they need to put themselves on the right side of history.
Right. I mean, there's obviously history with regards to Israel and Western ties, but we can't deny there's growing public outrage and mounting civilian casualties going on right now. So, in brief, Ismail, how much pressure is building on the U.S. to recalibrate its position, and could this widening rift among allies weaken America's global credibility?
I don't think the battles, the wars are going to stop anytime soon. The conflict, I beg your pardon, and I don't think that the British or the U.S. will prevent Israel. Remember, as soon as these threats of trade embargoes were made, Israel responded by saying that external pressure will not divert Israel from its path in defending its existence and security against enemies who seek its destruction. Now, that's very carefully worded language. Nobody, if you say my enemy is attacking me, you get the sentiment of people. But we have to understand that Israel represents the beachhead of the United States and of the West in the Middle East. So I don't think that there's going to be a major shift. Not until, because the Greater Israel Project is still a long way in the making, and it will probably continue.
Well, that's something that we definitely have to look into as the situation develops here. Thank you so much, Ismail, for your input. Right. As cracks appear in Western unity over Gaza, the Global South is reassessing its role in shaping international responses. So how should Malaysia and ASEAN navigate this shift? Now we are joined by Dr. Firoz Ali, Senior Lecturer of Faculty of Law and International Relations at UNIZA. Thank you so much, Dr. Firoz, for joining us. Right. With growing rifts, Dr. Firoz, among Western allies, as discussed just now, over Gaza, do you see a move away from the US-led unipolar world towards a more multipolar order, where countries maybe like China, Russia, and regional blocs like ASEAN play a larger role? And how are shifting global power dynamics shaping the way ASEAN and the Global South engage internationally?
Now, the rift over Gaza certainly reflects the deeper fracture within the West. But more importantly, it shows the limitation of the United States' moral leadership on this issue. Now, to compound to the problem further, we are also witnessing a limitation in the United States, especially from a military perspective. For example, the inability of the United States to stop the Houthis in Yemen from firing ballistic missiles towards Israel, which is Washington's protectorate in the Middle East. Now, other countries are certainly taking note on this development, on the decline on both soft power and hard power of the United States, and using this as a way of recalibrating their relationship with other superpowers. Russia, China comes to the mind. BRICS is an example. We get a lot of countries keen on joining BRICS and to get all the incentives out of it. I mean, all these dynamics that we are witnessing right now, the epicenter goes straight to the genocide inside Gaza.
Right. So looking ahead, Dr. Firoz, to Malaysia's ASEAN chairmanship in 2025, What role do you think regional cooperation play in navigating an increasingly multipolar and fragmented world order, and also increased by this crisis in Gaza as well? Your thoughts?
Well, Malaysia's chairmanship in ASEAN certainly comes at a time where we are seeing an increasingly fragmented global situation. And perhaps one way of Malaysia using its chairmanship to navigate ASEAN towards helping Palestinians in Gaza, perhaps it could be through proposing the idea of having one of ASEAN's humanitarian agency to help Gaza. A clear-cut example here is ASEAN Coordination Center for Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Management, in short, AHA, which can be mobilized to help the Gazans. Now, indeed, AHA is being created to help disasters within Southeast Asia context itself, but under these extraordinary circumstances, and perhaps under a more solidarity framework, Malaysia can nudge other ASEAN members to support the idea of using AHA to help Palestinians inside Gaza, while at the same time enhancing the soft power of ASEAN at the global theater.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Feiruz, for your input. That was Dr. Feiruz on how ASEAN can navigate the power shifts amid a global upheaval. And before we have Ismail Guardian on Western's allies' shift with regards to support to Israel. We've unpacked that. We'll go for a quick break. After this, we have more.
Cerita ini bermula dengan dua first wives.
You curi duit suami you and then you expect dia to jatuh cinta balik pada you. You tak layak bagi advice marriage pun dekat I.
This is why women need to know how to choose their husband properly.
First Wives. Stream episod terbaru dahulu, eksklusif on demand dan 9 malam di Astro Citra.
In today's episode of Wu Says, Melissa Idris spoke with Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Wu Wing Kai about the possibility of building a coalition of buffer states, the coming together of moderate, open trade countries that can help stabilize a shifting global order. He shares his perspective on why forming a North-South coalition may be a more effective response to global fragmentation. Have a listen.
Why should we bring class warfare to the international level? The whole goal is to maximize global prosperity and to ensure peace. The goal is not global class warfare. So that's why I think that a coalition of not just ASEAN, but you must get Japan and Korea involved. So that's the North-South coalition in Asia. But it shouldn't be anywhere be ethnic-based either. I think that the middle-income countries of Europe, who are traditionally friends of the US, should also be approached to form this North-South coalition, so that we are more like a club that resembles the United Nations, rather than the bunch of a union of poor states who are crying for social justice. We should be working for maximum global prosperity.
Okay.
Catch the full conversation on all AWANI International social media accounts at PowerFest.
China is seriously concerned about the U.S. Golden Dome missile defense project and has urged Washington to abandon its development. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump announced the $175 billion system led by a Space Force general and designed to counter threats from China and Russia.
China Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning warned the project carries strong offensive implications and raises the risk of an arms race and space militarization. Trump said the Golden Dome, inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, will be operational by the end of his term. It aims to target next-generation threats like ballistic and cruise missiles with advanced technologies across land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. The system is capable to intercept missiles at all stages of flight, including pre-launch. The Congressional Budget Office estimates the space-based components alone could cost up to $542 billion over 20 years.
That wraps up AWANI International. Stay tuned for reports on the rivalries, strategies and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. Visit international.astroawani.com for more and be sure to follow our social media accounts, Power Affairs. It is all for now. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you and good night.